Okay, it is time to learn why driving in the Balkans sucks, even though it's the only way of driving that I know, so I'm not quite sure why it sucks, but yeah, let's watch the video. Maybe it will inform me. All I know is, at least here in the capital of Romania, we have a thing called Law of the Jungle. So the rules go out of the window and everyone just is a maniac. But yeah, that's what I grew up with. So I'm kind of used to weird driving, I guess.
Driving. A staple of the 21st century human experience. An activity most of us engage on a semi-regular basis to go from point A to point B. Driving is not something most of us think of as anything out of the ordinary.
I don't know how to drive,
in the Balkans, it's anything but ordinary. For those of you that don't know, I recently got a car, and ever since then I've been Ryan Gosling maxing, driving all over these cursed lands.
Did he just say Ryan Gosling maxing? The maxing trend has to end.
Nearly dying 3 times and almost getting a stomach ulcer from the way BMW drivers drive. As a way to voice my frustration and save some money by not going to a therapist and bitching about my second world problems,
What therapist? There's no therapists in the Balkans. Your therapy's alcohol. What the heck?
I decided to make a video about the dangers and, well, general situation of driving in the Balkans, so you too, my dear viewer, can be informed if you ever make the fatal mistake of going through here by a car. So, without further ado, let's begin.
Opet kidamo rukama, a sad je jedan cenat, ljudi.
The road quality in the Balkans varies more than the mood of a bipolar teenage girl. You can say what you want about Vučić, Orban, or any other wannabe dictator who treats the state as their own bottom bitch. But credit where credit is due. The highways in these countries are absolutely amazing. They're smooth.
Honestly, the highways are great once they're done. They just take 10 times longer than they should because everyone's like pocketing the money. But they're great when they're done. I think we had a highway that took over 10 years to finish. It's like, what are they doing, man?
They're efficient. You got a gas oasis every couple of kilometers, and in no time you get where you need to be. Driving from one end of Hungary to the other, piece of cake. Driving from the tippy top of Serbia all the way down to the bottom, and even to Skopje, North Macedonia, a newborn's baby's ass isn't as smooth as the highway. I mean, the highways are so good, I could almost forgive the stolen elections. All I'm saying is, if Vučić builds a highway from Belgrade to Timisoara, I'll personally go and curb stomp a student protester. However, as soon as you get off the highway...
That is so accurate, man.
You would think that you were in the Donbass and not in the middle of Transylvania. So, one
that
of the
is
first
so
routes
accurate.
I drove when I first got my car was from Cluj to the Mary Cemetery, which is located in the north of Romania, right on the Ukrainian border. Now, the Mary Cemetery, for those of you who don't know, is this cool little place where they basically celebrate death by painting the tombstones of the people that died.
Cool, totally.
Showcasing the way they died.
It's depressing. It's not happy, by the way.
About it. Basically poking fun of the concept of died.
Wait, this girl was killed in a car crash and her parents ordered a cross from me and I made it for this girl. Excuse me, what? What the fuck? I told you, the place is depressing.
Making fun of it
and vessel my ass.
Basically poking fun of the concept of death and celebrating life. Pretty cool place. If you ever get the chance to visit, definitely do. However, the problem with it is that to get to it, from Cluj to the Mary Cemetery, you have to drive over 3.5 hours on national roads. Which wouldn't be that bad if you didn't have to go up and down a bunch of hills.
Chat, you'd think he's exaggerating, but no, this is pretty accurate. He is not kidding. Like, literally you have these roads that are built in such a way that you question your life, and the angles at which you have to like turn around sometimes. Yeah. These roads are something on top of the potholes, and yeah.
which have roads that haven't seen maintenance since the days of f***ing Ceausescu. Now, there are so many holes on that entire highway that you'd think that the road was bombed by the Russians. And it wouldn't be an issue if there were like teensy holes, you know, like the typical stuff you find, potholes everywhere. No. These were holes that were almost half a meter deep sometimes. I'm talking about big ass f***ing potholes. Which, you know, I don't really feel indifferent about, considering that I just bought a car and new tires worth over 500 euros with it. So, for most of the route going to the Mary Cemetery, I was successfully avoiding them. But eventually had to go back to the godforsaken lands of femboys and IT workers known as Cluj. And on the way back, it was pitch black. I'm talking like completely dark. And of course, no one in their sane mind would put in, street lights in the middle of a hill. And
of course not.
There was a bunch of holes, so naturally, I just kept going and hit my wheel that the entire car started shaking, and I started panicking, thinking I just got hit by a Russian missile, and I started thinking, you know what? It's over. My obituary is gonna be shown on TV alongside with the Article 5 declaration. I had a good run, I had a great channel, but luckily my car was fine. I had great suspensions. All is well. But here's the thing, right? This is the case with the roads anywhere in the Balkans that's not in a major city. As soon as you leave the major city, or any city in particular...
Even the major cities have it. Bucharest has so many freaking holes. And it's not just the holes, it's the sewers. The holes for the sewers. Sometimes they put the lid higher up. So it's like 1 to 5 centimeters above the fucking road. Or below it. So you have to avoid them while going on the main boulevard because you gotta go like left, right, just like go around them like a serpent and try not to hit them because it's unpleasant. You can't just go in a straight line.
You're gonna think that you're in a war zone. There's constantly gonna be a bunch of holes, a bunch of shit on the road that are gonna deck your car, and it's your job to try and minimize the damage.
Oh, like the old parts where we have the old roads, like the old parts of the Bucharest city. You have, fudge, what are they called? You have those roads that are made, not brick by brick, but it looks kind of like bricks. And that's even worse. It looks like bricks, but I don't think that's brick. Yeah, it's even worse because, well, they just took random stone and shoved it in there together, put them together there because no cars back then, so they didn't care too much. Cobblestone, yeah. That one. It's like rectangle. Random rectangles of varying lengths. Such a horrible experience to drive over that. Or to use your bike over it. Even worse for me, because I don't drive, I skate. I can't skate. Like, my teeth are chattering. They're like, you know?
Especially considering how little Balkaners earn. Another time I was driving to visit my friend in Hungary, who made the fatal mistake not to be born in Budapest, the fallout lands of Underfunded. For those of you that don't know, Underfunded is flatter than Taylor Swift's ass. And going over there, you'd think that the roads would be fine, considering that flat terrain is perfect for development. You'd fucking think that, but... Naughty Foreman had something to say about
nice
that.
Joke.
Immediately after getting off the highway in Kecskemét, the road turns into a monstrosity of asphalt patches, lanes, and potholes, which turn your drive into a hazardous roller coaster ride. The funniest part about this is that they put the speed limit at
every
90,
countryside.
But if you even dare to go over 40, the only highway you'll end up driving on is the one to hell. However, the local who drives the shitbox that's been on the road since the fall of the Berlin Wall will just floor it. Once on that road, while I was fighting for my dear life, in my rearview mirror, I
my
saw
summer
a little
car
red
simulator.
dot. After 5 seconds, it was halfway on its way to me. And after another 3, I just saw a red Golf 2 bypass me going faster than the speed of sound. I don't even know how or why, but I guess Balkan drivers are just built different.
Oh, that is so true. I don't think my dad goes under 100 on those roads.
Now, if there's anything more schizophrenic than the roads in the Balkans, then it would be the drivers. The ones, how should I put this nicely? Just simply don't give two shits. Speed limit signs to them are just mere suggestions. Driving without a minimum of one shot of rakia or palinka inside their system is a cardinal sin, and wearing a seatbelt, well, that's just globalist propaganda. Literally, when I was buying my car, the seller, to show off what it could do, got into it, refused to buckle up, and then proceeded to floor it in a school zone. You know, of course, the car started beeping because you're not buckled in. And I asked him, like, hey, doesn't the beeping bother you? He said, nah, I just tune it out. To most
That's
of the Westerners watching
crazy.
this, it might seem like I'm over-exaggerating a little bit, but
I feel like that's an over-exaggeration, maybe, because every person that I've met puts their seat buckle, but, like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I can see this being a thing.
to prove my point, I'd like to show you a little clip from the Hungarian news.
Forgalomból kivont autóval kocsikáztak jogosítvány nélkül,
They
ráadásul
drove
az
without
egyik
a
keréken még
license
gumi sem volt.
and
Ez
no
tűnt fel a
tire.
nógrádi rendőröknek, és megállították
What
a
the
kocsit, amiben
fudge?
két férfi ült. Ezután a sofőr a rendőrök szeme
The driver
láttára
crawled in the
átmászott a hátsó
back
ülésre, a
seat.
mellette utazó pedig a kormány mögé ült, hogy mentse a helyzetet. Nem sikerült, kiderült, hogy mindketten részegek
They
voltak.
were both
Luckily,
drunk.
these types of drivers are limited to the national and rural roads, but on the highways we have a completely different breed. Now, for the sake of context, I drive a 2022 Dacia Logan. It's a pretty
The one thing keeping you in the car when it all goes wrong. Well, see, here's the thing. We're in the Balkans. If something goes wrong, you're fucked for life, so you might as well be dead. Who the fuck can afford things going wrong? We can barely afford paycheck to paycheck living, man. If things go wrong, oh no.
simple, basic, middle-class car, quite affordable. It has a 1-liter engine, 90 horsepower, but outside of the mechanic, I tell people it's a 1.9 TDI. It's not that powerful, but it gets me where I need to be, and it has no issues driving 130 on the highway. And for the most part, the highway speed limit across Europe and the Balkans is 130. And I like to go that speed limit. If the weather is shit, I'll go 100 to 110. But that's not the case for most Balkan drivers.
I was gonna say 100, 110? That's like slow. I think on the highway is like 180 plus?
Drivers! The highways here, unlike in the States, consist usually of two lanes, one in each direction. Most sane people will stick to the right lane because that's the right thing to do and only use the left lane to overtake. However, if you drive a Mercedes, a BMW, an Audi, or a newer Skoda model,
Correction. You only sit on the right if you want to have the slowest experience because you get all the snails and the incompetents and the people that are out enjoying their life and have nowhere to be on the right side. Usually though what happens is you go on the right, then someone slows, you go on the left, and then you go on the right, and then you go on the left, and then you go on the right, and eventually just give up and stay on the left because you're being pushed from behind and there's someone in front of you going faster, so you gotta catch up to them, and the person behind you is also pushing, and you're like, yeah. And occasionally you have the fucking mad lad that literally drives, and instead of like, you know, because it's the highway, so they can't like bypass you on the left, they bypass you on the right, and you have to fear for your bloody life when that happens.
then you are deathly allergic to the right lane, and your main mode of commuting on the highway is by exclusively flooring it on the left lane until you either reach your destination or die in a violent car crash and inconvenience every other commuter on the highway, closing the highway for everyone else until the ambulance arrives. The other thing about these drivers is, so when you're driving the highway, as I said, you have two lanes, and most of the time in the right lane, you'll have a bunch of trucks.
Yeah.
Now, for truck drivers, different rules apply, and they usually have to drive at a max speed of 90. And that's all fine and well, especially because you're driving, well, a 30-ton death machine. But if you're a mere mortal...
By the way, the truck drivers also don't listen to the rule of limit. If you find them at 80 to 90, you're lucky. That's usually not the case.
You don't want to drive 90 because you bought the entire speedometer and you want to use the entire speedometer. So you have to overtake them. So to do just that, you have to go into the cursed left lane. However, as soon as you enter it, in a matter of seconds, you'll have a f***ing white BMW tailgate you and keep flashing you to get out of the way, which wouldn't be an issue if you didn't have a 30-ton semi on your right, which is longer than the schlong of a Congolese villager. And God forbid that the BMW slows down from 170 to 130 until you pass the semi. That would inconvenience him too much because God forbid he goes on the speed limit on the highway. Instead, it's more convenient for them to just keep flashing you and keep like tailgating.
Yeah, this is literally the experience.
And you're basically shaking because you have a maniac behind you and that machine on the right side. Stressing even more because he keeps flashing you. And I know what you're gonna say. Yeah, if you fucking noob, just floor it until you pass the truck and then move on. Here's the thing, right? I drive a fucking Dacia Logan. And when I floor it, it takes a while to get up to 150. And most of the time, there's a bunch of trucks in the right lane. So there's like a literal convoy. It's not that simple. Balkan drivers as a whole are the worst types of drivers. They're like Minnesotan Asian American women if they were blind, deaf, and born with 2 left arms. The more expensive the car they drive, the higher the chance they'll get away with vehicular manslaughter. They're impatient as so it's not even uncommon to see a retard driving on the train track as a speeding train is coming its way. Trust me, I've seen it. I can't stress enough how much of a nightmare it is to drive in the Balkans. Like after New Year's, I was driving from Belgrade to Ljubljana on the Croatian highway, which is
that's normal. It's just normal, man. We got places to be. Time, we ain't got no time. What's time? We need all the time to live, you know? We can't afford leisure strolls, you know?
Again, a great highway. Absolutely loved it. The problem with that is that at the time you had everyone and their Balkan mothers diaspora going back from the Balkan countries to their jobs in Germany and Austria, scrubbing and cleaning toilets, driving their expensive Mercedes and BMWs, having a death wish on the highway. So, of course, you couldn't pass any of the trucks. It was raining, it was snowing, and they were going 170 on the highway. Alongside with that, I was driving with 3 hours of sleep and a boy cold. A boy cold! All in all, I've never been as stressed in my life as I was in that moment. So, I survived that, I can survive anything else. To make things worse, it's not just the expensive cars that'll do this, but the shit boxes too. I can't express how shook I am when I get flashed while overtaking to see an Opel Corsa 2005 or a Volkswagen 2009 Jetta doing this shit. Either way, it's either the most best and expensive cars or the worst, barely standing shit boxes that are doing this type of shit.
Kinda true. Kinda true. Like, before we get into the police section, I think my worst experience with my dad, because he, as I said, I don't drive. I don't know how to drive. I should probably get my license at one point. But, like, my worst experience was the same car he was driving, a Dacia Logan, literally in front of us, flipping on its own. It just, like, 1 second I blinked, it was on the road in front of us. The next second it was in the air being flipped and then in a ditch. Thankfully we have like pretty big ditches, but yeah. Is your experience on the roads? Yep, it's pretty accurate. Can confirm. But I've lived here my entire life, so to me this is normal. Like I'm used to this. This is like our average everyday experience. Everyone is rushing to get somewhere. Everyone has stuff to do. No one wants to deal with shit. And yeah, laws are suggestions over here somehow. Oh, is the public transport in Bucharest decent? Yeah, that's pretty good. Usually, most of the time it's on time. Sometimes it's like 10 minutes late or 10 minutes early. But it's pretty decent.
I know what you might be wondering. Okay, Janos, if it's that bad, then where is the police?
Where's the police? Okay, let's see if I can guess what he's gonna say. Being bribed, can't be bothered to move off their ass, staying in the local station because there's air conditioning there and their car doesn't have it. Cannot be bothered, only picks the easy targets, And then they spawn camp you in the worst fucking places with speedometers or whatever they're called. And then they stop you like miles away. But generally speaking, people are very good at warning and noticing them. And drinking? I don't feel like our police drink that much. I don't think I've ever seen policemen being drunk or drinking, personally.
I'll tell you where they are. U pičkoj lepoj materini, eto gde su.
But yeah, they try and ticket you in the
past
worst
couple
ways
of God
possible.
knows how many weeks, I've driven down most of the major highways in the Balkans. And I can count on my right hand the amount of times I've seen a police car.
On the highway? I don't think I've ever seen a police car on the highway. I don't think they stay there. The highway has those things where they track your speed. There are a couple of them placed. Not many, very few. That they just take a picture and then send it to you at your home. That's about it.
And most of those times, it's been after a pay toll station where everyone already slows down. Where it matters, they're nowhere to be found. And of course, your typical Balkaner
Yeah, the
takes full
photo radar.
advantage of this shit. And here's the thing, right? I hate the police as much as the next guy. But on the highway, I'd be more than happy to see the police actually doing something for once in their donut-eating lives.
Yeah, no. The highway, there's like, what do you want them to do? There's nothing there for them. It's like, it's too much of a hassle. They're not gonna bother. Too far. That being said, in Germany, they stopped us because we had a belt not buckled in, and they saw that in a minibus. And they stopped us and gave us a warning and a scolding that everyone needs to have their belts on and be seated. German highways are next level, chat.
Everyone knows that Balkan traffic is bad, but for some reason, there's only 44,000 active duty officers in Serbia, a country with roughly 6 million people, which is already bad. But then you have Romania, which has just slightly less than 20 million people, and they have the same amount of police. Of course, you also have Hungary, who then has less than 10 million people, and they have 36,000. And these numbers encompass all types of cops, and not just the traffic ones. So the ones regulating the roads are even less in number. You would think that ex-socialist, ex-authoritarian countries who used to be policed to promote government jobs would have a much larger number, but hell no. So most of the roads are left.
There's a reason it's an ex-country, you know, just saying. After communism, people were so quick to abandon everything that reminded them of communism that a lot of things went to shit simply because of that. And that includes police, because, you know, we don't want to be seen as still communist. So basically they did a 180. They turned around. The way it sounds is no longer a country. Yeah, it's an ex-country. We're no longer a country. We're a jungle. And to be fair, there are people that have told me that Romania is not a country, that we are the capital of Italy. So, yeah.
Unsupervised with maniacs doing whatever the hell they want. And here's the thing, right? I've been driving since I was 15. I got my driving license in the US because over there, if you don't drive or have a car, you're practically a second-class citizen. It's not like I'm inexperienced or a retard. I mean, maybe the latter, but I'm definitely not inexperienced. And in my 9 years of driving, only a couple of weeks ago did I get my first ever speeding ticket. You can imagine how happy I was over that shit. Extremely. So what happened was, essentially, I was driving on the highway from the north of Serbia to basically Belgrade and going to the nearby cancerous town known as Pančevo. So basically, it was highway driving all through and through, and near Belgrade, I was taking the exit on the highway. And I did just that. But here's the thing. On the highway, the speed limit was 130, and when you're driving on a national road, the speed limit is 80 in Serbia and 90 in the rest of the EU, at least in the other Balkan countries. And thinking that I was on a national road, I was driving 90. But no, it wasn't a national road. It was some Belgrade suburb. But the problem was the traffic sign that displayed the speed limit was extremely crooked, and you couldn't see it because some drunk driver most likely ran into it, and the government can't be to fix it.
This is so fucking true, man! We have so many signs from previous constructions from outdated signs, the signs just missing because no one can be bothered to do anything about it. So like sometimes you'll see a sign that tells you can go with 80, you can go with 90, you can go with 30, 40. And you're like, huh? Why am I slowing down to 30? There's nothing happening. It's an old sign from a construction, but you gotta respect it because if you don't, there will be a cop that's like, I need some extra cash, dude. So I'ma sit there and camp it. And if people don't slow down to 30, I can write a ticket. And it's like, son of a bitch.
So, naturally, me, being the genius of the Carpathians, didn't see that. And I was driving 90 when the speed limit was actually 60. So, behind the bush, there was a bunch of police and they got me ass with a radar. Realizing I done goofed, I didn't fight it, and I just accepted my fate. But, although it was my mistake, it was a complete cheese move because not
It
even
was,
300
it
meters
was.
on the ramp. You have maniacs driving 170 and they just go and hide into the bushes, basically waiting for people to
Yep.
because they don't see a sign. The other thing is, these in Serbia at least,
I mean, you have to keep in mind, they're driving a police car. They can't catch up to the people driving 160. So, why would they go in a speed chase when they know they're gonna lose? It's much easier to just sit in a fucking shrub and wait for some random person to fall in your trap.
mostly stop you to just get a bribe. Alongside
They can try reading the license plate. Yeah, but you still have no proof. Like, you don't know who was driving. You didn't see their face. They can read the license plate, but anyone with half a brain will get out of it because they can't see who was driving. Like, who's the person in front of the car? Someone can just go like, it wasn't me that was driving. Fuck you. I think they changed that recently so that it doesn't matter who's driving, but I'm not sure because I don't, as I said, I don't really keep up with that.
being low in numbers, the police in the Balkans is also severely underfunded. The average cop in Serbia gets an average salary of 624 euros, which, let's be real, is probably skewed to be even higher a little bit because of the cop salaries in Belgrade. So, the average cop that lives in a Balkan town of 40,000 people in Serbia most likely earns much less. And considering Europe's appendix,
That's crazy,
known as the
Altamir.
Balkans, have high inflation and high grocery prices, that salary in reality doesn't mean shit. So, to
Yep, very true. I think like we spend 80 to 90% of our salary on just living, if we're lucky.
compensate, a lot of cops will turn to corruption and try and
Yep.
indict you for random bullshit just so they can get a bribe out of you so they will leave you alone. For example, I have an uncle in Serbia who frequently does business in Montenegro. Man has his own company, imports shit into Serbia, and every now and then he has to take a business trip to the Adriatic. As such, he is very familiar with the bullshit that occurs on the roads and the paperwork he needs to conduct business as smoothly as possible. One time on his way back from Montenegro, he was stopped by a cop right after the border. The cop was asking for every and any paper under the sun. just to
Papers,
annoy him.
please.
And of course, him being a top G had every possible paper. Seeing that he's not gonna get my uncle, he pulls the most bullshit card and asks if he paid that residency tax in Montenegro, which is a tax which your hotel usually pays for having guests. Him renting out a private room didn't have that. So, of course, the guy started annoying him with
Wow.
that, only leaving him after he offered him 50 euros to bug off. I'm sure many of you,
Wow.
Balkan viewers, also have some of your own with the traffic police pulling this kind of bullcrap on you or your family members or friends of friends or whoever because it's just so common.
It is common, yep.
Now, when it comes
Why is that such an accurate driving experience, man? That one clip. It is so freaking common that, like, they will find random reasons to just fine you because they just want you to give them, like, I don't know, $30, $50.
to trucks and truck drivers, for the most part, they do not mess around. If anyone on the road knows traffic rules and the code of conduct
Oh yeah, don't
better
mess
than
with the
anyone
trucks.
else, then those are truck drivers because at the end of the day, they are driving a 30-ton death machine and with just one mistake, they can end up killing themselves and everyone else on the road. So, 99% of truck drivers, at least here in the Balkans, are great drivers.
Every time one of the clips seems extreme, you say it's accurate. Yeah! Like, it's pretty much how driving is here. So you get a lot of like people being serpentine with their cars quite often.
And you should feel safe being around them. However, every now and then, you'll get an empty-headed retard on the road who thinks he can do the same with his truck as he does with his fourth-hand Mercedes. One time, me and my mom were driving across Romania, heading to the seaside of
Yeah,
Bulgaria,
sometimes you get
because,
crazy truck
Bulgaria's
drivers.
coast, despite what many will say, is still a hidden gem and has cheap cappuccinos and hookers. So on the way, most of the road.
I don't think
was
it's that
fine,
cheap
get to
anymore.
Constanza, and then we were heading down the road. Now, on the
That's crazy because like for us in Romania, our tourism, we always think that it's always generally cheaper to go to any other place that has coast compared to our own, because ours is designed to get all the, Western dough going.
this road, there was a bunch of roundabouts, and in one of them we just entered and were supposed to go straight, first exit. And we were on the outer lane of the roundabout. This truck also entered the roundabout at the same time as us on the inner lane, and decided in the middle of the roundabout to switch lanes and exit the lane, which ended in him hitting us right in the side of our car and basically pulling us outside of the roundabout. Of course, as you can imagine, impact left a dent and scared us shitless because a literal truck just hit us. So of course, we tried to flash him, honk him, basically get him to pull over, but he just decided to hit and run. Just kept going. And
Oh god, yeah,
that was
classic.
that. More recently,
Yeah.
when I was driving when all the Balkan diaspora was coming back home on the border between Slovenia and Croatia, the guards decided to close the border because, to hell with Schengen. Who needs it? Definitely not Romania and Bulgaria. They decided to close it for some checks and opened up a couple of lanes to go through. Now, as you can imagine, there was a shit ton of congestion.
Yeah.
And only a couple lanes were working. And
Had that a
whenever
few
new
times
lane
when going to
opened,
Turkey.
Every Balkaner basically started moving out into the new lane because they would be Balkaners if they didn't care about saving 10 seconds of
The most accurate thing he said, man. I told you. We have places to be, stuff to do. We don't have time. It's always about shaving some seconds off.
their lives. So basically, another lane opened for cars. I note, for cars.
Oh.
And me being in another lane, start switching.
That's
So of course I go
fantastic.
extremely slow, around 5 kilometers an hour, look everywhere back and forth, give my signal and everything, only for a huge ass bus to just rush through, barely miss me and my car by the skin of my teeth, and just get in front. The worst part of all, right, was the fact that he was from Kosovo. Yes, I checked his license plate. I get it with cars. If you want to be a retard on the road and want to kill yourself, the only person you're going to end up killing most likely is just yourself. But if you're driving a vehicle with
Is that a
several
challenge to
tons,
us?
you're not only gonna kill yourself, but everyone else on that goddamn road. For the love of God and everything holy, just drive passively. Like, I know for a matter of fact, you have a picture of Jesus and a cross hanging up above you. Do you think Jesus
That just described 90% of our cars, man. All of them have something holy in them. Oh.
would drive like that? I
Yes.
don't think so.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would.
I genuinely believe that city driving in the Balkans is one of the upper circles of hell. It's not
It's
as bad as driving,
needed.
as say, in Istanbul, Tbilisi, or God forbid any city in India or Afghanistan, but it's definitely far from enjoyable. How taxi drivers don't go insane because of that is beyond me. But then again, looking at those prices they're offering, maybe they did go insane. For the most part, if you drive in a smaller, non-tourist town in the Balkans, things are pretty chill, and this doesn't apply to them. You go 50, you slow down in a school zone, it's pretty fine. But if you happen to enter a big city, may God have mercy on your soul, because the other drivers won't.
Oh god. My dad has a saying. He will notice a car that's not from our city and be like, "Oh, look at this dude coming into the city and driving like he's in his own city." Doesn't he know that over here we don't drive like that? They generally, like, let me put it this way. Drivers from smaller cities or from other places that come to Bucharest, they don't have a good time. They drive worse than someone that's still learning how to drive. Like, someone in driving school drives better than they drive. How does he know every car in your city? How can he tell a car from someplace else? License plate. So every license plate has a code, and the first letter or 2 letters, like, it's usually a letter depicting your like where you're from, where the city is registered in, then like number and then letters. So like Bucharest would be a B. If you see a license plate that has B on it, it's from Bucharest. And yeah, you basically can tell where someone is from, or at least where their car is registered from. To be honest, it's a bit unfair. Bucharest drivers are suicidal. I mean, I'm just saying, okay, this is what I grew up with. This is what I know. To me, I was dying when someone was going the speed limit in the city. Like, one of my friends, he doesn't drive, like, he respects the law, which you'd think is like, hey, Paws, that's a good thing, right? He was going 50 the entire time. I'm used to my dad driving. It took us twice as long to get somewhere. And I was bored out of my mind. And he was driving so safe. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand the chat. It was horrible. It was torture.
I love my walkable cities as much as a Hungarian YouTuber who has a hate boner for Musk and a hard-on for trains. But if you want to get anywhere in the Balkans that's not in the immediate city, say to go for a hike in the mountains, visit some relatives in a nearby city, or hell, travel to another city in a nearby country or on the other end of the continent, then public transportation is your worst enemy, and you absolutely most definitely need a car. And if you're one of those people from r/cars and think I'm full of shit, please go and take a train from Cluj to Bucharest, and then...
When do you drive faster than 10 kilometers an hour in Bucharest outside at 1 a.m.? Usually on, like, big boulevards, not in rush hour. So, like, for example, Besplay, I don't know how to say that in English. You will have moments where you can drive faster. But yeah, if it's not rush hour or it's not where most traffic is heading, if you're going the opposite way, right, you can drive pretty fast. So like if everyone's going to work, right, one side of a boulevard is usually the one that's the most congested and the other one's pretty free. It's pretty common that you can drive pretty fast. Also, if the roads are blocked, you use the tram tracks and you bypass everyone. Like, yes, let's just say the way I learned about driving, if I ever get my license, you better not go out of your home.
Come back to me. And if you live anywhere where there's civilization, aka a KFC, then most definitely you'll have trouble with your car. First and foremost, finding parking is absolutely hell. The cities
It is.
Like the rest of Europe, and I guess most of the world, were not designed with cars in mind. Most of them date back to the medieval ages where people were just pedestrians or had horses. Then in the communist times, they did adjust them a little bit for cars, but considering cars were seen as a luxury, no one accounted for there being so many cars and people utilizing them so much.
To be fair, we have a car problem because here, if you have a car, you're considered rich or wealthy or well off, right? It's not a necessity, it's a luxury. So everyone that gets a freaking car, when you have one, everyone looks up to you. They're like, whoa, you know? It's like, whoa, you can afford a car, dude. You're well off. So for us, we have people that literally buy sometimes 2 or 3 cars just to keep them in front of the apartment complex. right? And it's like, dude, you're holding free spots for your bloody cars and only using one. But it's like, you know, they can change their cars like they change socks, so they feel good about it. We have a car problem. Like we have a car problem, definitely. They started, now we have we're getting taxed on parking. I think you have to pay an annual fee if you want to be able to park anywhere in the city. Otherwise, you got to like pay hourly or per day to just park your car in a lot of spaces. Obviously, people still ignore that, and most of the time the police only come and check if the cars have the right to park there only when they get super hungry, so usually towards the end of the month, kind of like on the 15th, 20th. So as long as during those days you're generally fine and you're paying your stuff, the rest of the times they're not gonna get you because they just got their salary and they're well fed. If that makes sense.
So, of course, the current infrastructure is not made for this amount of traffic. So, finding a free parking spot is virtually impossible as every single street is occupied or designated as a special parking spot, which if you use, you'll pay out of your ass for just to leave your car for a couple of hours. In my city in Cluj, you can pay an annual tax of 300 euros and leave your car out on the street, which would be okay if every spot wasn't already taken. So most of the people who are unlucky have to go and park their car on the outskirts of the city.
Yeah, like another thing to consider, right? I'm not sure if he's going to say it, so I'm just gonna say it. When you pay your fee, right, you don't get a specific parking slot. And I live in an apartment complex where there are at least, I don't know, like 300 apartments. There are like, I don't know, 10 car spots. Okay, maybe 20 if we consider the back end of the building. Like for 200, 300 apartments. Good luck!
Like, for example, when I first got my car, I basically had to park it all the way in Manastur, which is a common neighborhood which borders a hill and a forest. So I would do that basically every time I would use it, and to get back to my own common neighborhood of Miraj, I would have to call a cab. And one time when I called my cab, he pulled up to the parking lot and he said, "You left your car here, didn't you, huh?" Yeah. But whatever, parking's a bitch anywhere that's not America, right? What really grinds my gears is the driving within the city itself. Now, as I mentioned before, the cities weren't made for basically this amount of traffic. So constantly, the city is congested, along with the fact that the streets are short and there's a bunch of intersections intertwined with. And when you have signs that basically show, where you're supposed to go, they're not placed far enough. So a lot of the time, you're gonna f*** up because some driver's not gonna let you basically switch lanes. So you're gonna have to take a detour because you can't switch lanes because you didn't see it in time. On top of that, a lot of the streets are either narrow or one way. So when there's a traffic jam, that traffic jam is gonna last for a minimum of a couple of hours.
Reminder in Bucharest at the very least, from my personal experience, one-way streets are optional. Do you know the amount of freaking times people don't see the sign or they randomly changed it? It was like, it was going one way or both ways, and then someone decided overnight to change the sign and it goes a different way now, so no one knows that. So you end up people getting stuck with each other. And then anyway, if it's a one way, but it's a short one way, people would be like, whatever, I'm just gonna go. There's no one gonna be there. And you have blocks there too. Welcome to driving in Bucharest. I'm telling you, chat, it's literally the jungle. Oh.
So, for example, when I was heading from the south of Serbia and heading to New Belgrade, I had to pass through Belgrade's inner city. And, I thought it was not going to be a big deal, considering I was there at 2 p.m.
In Belgrade?
As soon as I got inside,
God.
I got hit with a traffic jam with no cars moving whatsoever for about 40 to 50 minutes, with everyone staying in position and everyone just honking as if that was going to change anything. Like in Cluj, the traffic gets so bad that if you live on the outskirts, basically in the suburbs known as Florești, and if you take the bus, a lot of times when
you'll
a
get
traffic
faster.
jam does occur, your bus won't be able to move, so the bus driver will just open
Interesting.
up the door so that people can walk out and walk to work. Because it'll literally be faster getting there on foot than getting there by bus.
Honestly, here our buses usually get there faster than cars. We do have a couple of special bus lanes that people obviously do not respect. But generally speaking, at least trams, maybe not so much buses. I feel like buses sometimes do get stuck, but trams, right? You have your own lane and your own special place, and usually they have pikes so that people can't go onto that lane because otherwise they would, obviously. So using public transportation usually will mean that you're faster at work.
The other thing that's really frustrating is, again, that the Mercedeses and BMWs still don't follow the rules even in the cities. Now, because the traffic is so congested, they can't speed. Unless it's at night and there's not a living soul outside, then they'll speed to their heart's content, right? But when there's traffic, they'll still find a different way to annoy you. Now, here's the thing about the Balkans.
It's funny because he doesn't mention the people that have even quote-unquote better cars, like the people that are driving Ferraris. They're a nightmare. They don't stop at crossings. Like, if you hear a Ferrari coming, you better not step onto the sidewalk from the sidewalk onto the road. It doesn't matter that you have the green light and they're supposed to let you pass. Yeah, don't stop at don't go on the crossing. A Ferrari will not stop. How do I know this? Because, well, several times I was about to get hit by one, and my friend actually got hit by one. Thankfully, he's also really big, my friend. So he dented the Ferrari.
And Europe in general. On the streets,
They even park on the lane, yeah, they
this
do.
little sign, which essentially means no stopping or parking at any time. But because the Mercedes and BMW drivers wash toilets in Germany and earn 2,000 euros for that, they think that rule doesn't apply to them. So, in the narrowest of streets, where you have this sign plastered everywhere, they'll just leave their car wherever they want to go out for a coffee or a cigarette and just not deal with it because they drive a Mercedes or BMW.
Sve one ružne istetovirane kurvetine sa silikonima kojima je jebač kupio G klasu ili X peticu da ga voze po gradu da se kurče dok idu na nokte pa stanu tako gde god. Vrtići, škole, druže.
Kindergarten and schools as well. Oh my god.
To je jebeno nemoguće.
It is
svi moraju da parkiraju
impossible.
pod 90 stepeni od škole, tačno ispred ulaza, da bi otišli po svoje
This is
jebeno
so
smrdljivo
true.
kopile, jer ne daj Bože da jebeni smarač parkira 50 metara niže i prošeta po svoje dete. Ne.
This is so fucking true. If you go past the school, you literally have to wait for the mother, usually the mother, to get their kid, and they just park right in front of the school exit and wait until their kid comes out. It doesn't matter that 10 other cars are honking. Nope, they're just gonna sit there in the middle of the road and block traffic. So
Moraju svi da vide da je on došao po svoje dete, jer Bože moj, volim ja svoje dete, mater ti jebem, svi volimo svoju decu, jebote. John Wayne Gacy je voleo svoju decu, pizdati materina, ti jebem mater. Znači, ne mogu, saobraćaj u ovoj zemlji je meni jako bolna tačka, ja ne znam kako ljudi mogu trezni da voze uopšte u ovom saobraćaju. Ja svaki dan, ja mislim da ću kupiti, brate, dashcam. Znači, kupit ću kamere, stavit ću ih i napred i sa strane i sebi mikrofon i snimat ću, brate, svaki put. Bukvalno ću napraviti YouTube kanal od toga.
honestly, it would make for a pretty funny YouTube channel. I should ask my dad for his footage because he has a dash cam. I should ask him for the footage and be like, hey, can I see it?
Zato što je nepresušno ono, znači, toliko materijala imaš, znači, ja ne mogu da opišem.
Yeah, you would.
This one time,
For me, right, I think this is how the traffic is in general, so I don't mind it. I'm used to that. This is what I'm used to. I told you, I feel weird when people drive safely, when they drive within the speed limit, when they drive, they check everything and they're slow and meticulous. I feel weird because it's like, What are you doing?
My
Yeah.
friend from Otford that I mentioned previously was coming to visit me in Cluj. She drove 6 hours, and being a Hungarian, she for the first time saw terrain that wasn't flat. So, Cluj was pretty stressful for her, to say the least. When she finally arrived, she was dead tired and was trying to get into her hotel's garage. But when she tried to enter, she found a white Mercedes blocking the entrance with the no parking and stopping signs right in front. She waited and waited for him to come and move the car, but no one was coming. And considering it was a narrow one-way street, a line of cars formed behind her, honking like there was no tomorrow. So the poor thing somehow maneuvered and was able to enter, but in this little wiggle room, she ended up slightly scratching the Mercedes so lightly she didn't even notice nor feel it. However, the Mercedes' owner, after he was done jerking off in the bushes, came and saw that, and came to bitch to the reception desk that someone scratched his precious car where he wasn't supposed to park it. So, the weekend that she was there, we had to deal with this stupid-ass kukalag who was making a fuss over the scratch, going to the police and all that wonderful stuff. And the entire time, he was ranting and raving how the damage is worth several thousands of euros. So, when my friend was leaving, I saw that there was a little bit of paint from the Mercedes on her car. And I decided to just wipe it with my hand. And it came right off like new. And at that moment, if I didn't kill someone, I don't think I ever would. All in all, if you drive a BMW or a Mercedes, I hope you have a horrible day.
I know a lot of people who don't use seatbelts. Every taxi driver almost. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ. Seatbelts, honestly, it's much better. Like 10 years ago, probably over half the people weren't using them. Now, a lot less problems. God damn, this was something else. YouTube, I hope you managed to sit until the end. If you did, type speed in the comments. And thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Until next time, YouTube. Bye.